Hello everyone, welcome to Study Made Easy, a smart learning for a smartphone generation. Now in the last video, we talked about concept of point object. We also talked about dimensions of motion, that is one-dimensional motion, two-dimensional motion and three-dimensional motion. Now today we'll be continuing our discussion on kinematics. And today we'll talk about distance and displacement. Right, we'll be talking about distance and displacement today. Let me first define distance and then I'll explain distance to you. So distance is the length of the path traveled by an object. Let me write this. Distance is the length of the path. It is the length of the path traveled by an object. Now what does this mean? Now I'll try and explain this. Now suppose a person is standing on point A and he wants to go to the point D, and the path he chooses is this one, right? And let me say this is point B and this is point C. So the path he chooses is A, B, C and D. Now let me say that the length between AB is 5 meters, the length between BC is 10 meters, and the length between CD is 5 meters again. So if I ask you that how much did that person actually travel, you say that he actually traveled first a distance of 5 meters, then he again traveled a length of 10 meters, and then he traveled a length of 5 meters. So the length that he traveled during its path is actually 20 meters, right? So he traveled, the length of the path was 20 meters. Now according to our definition, the length of the path is known as distance. So this 20 meters is nothing but it is the distance that object actually traveled. So in simple terms, distance is how much you move from one position to the other position, right? I don't think there's much difficulty in understanding this. Now let me talk about few points on distance. Now first is that distance actually is a scalar quantity. Now you must be knowing that what does a scalar quantity mean. A scalar quantity is that quantity which only has a magnitude and has no direction. So this 20 meters actually gives only a magnitude, right? It only says that how much we have moved. It doesn't give us any direction, that in which direction we have moved. It only gives us how much we have moved. So this how much signifies actually the scalar quantity, right? And the second thing about distance is that distance is always a positive quantity. And the third thing is that distance is always a non-zero quantity. There has to be a measurement between any 2 points. It cannot be equal to 0. In this case, the measurement was 20 meters, right? I don't think there's much need in explanation in these 2 points, so I'll move ahead and I will talk about displacement now. So what is displacement? Now I'll define displacement again. Now displacement is a straight line between 2 positions. It is a straight line between 2 positions. Or there's another definition of displacement, that displacement actually is the shortest distance between 2 points. It is the shortest distance between 2 points. Now you must know that the shortest distance between any 2 points is actually a straight line. So displacement is a straight line between any 2 points, right? Now let me try and explain this. I'll take above example in which a person wanted to go from A to D and he took a path of ABCD, right? Now according to our definition, displacement is the shortest distance, and I told you the shortest distance between 2 points is actually a straight line. So if I draw a straight line between A and D, now this line will give me the displacement of an object, right? Displacement of an object. Isn't it simple? Yes, it is. So displacement actually is the shortest distance between 2 points. So here the shortest distance is the length of the straight line. Now few points on displacement I'll discuss. Firstly, displacement is a vector quantity, right? It is a vector quantity. That means it is having both magnitude as well as direction. Now this is the magnitude. This is actually the magnitude of displacement, and this gives the direction of that displacement, because a person wanted to go from A to D, so the direction of the displacement will be in this direction. If a person wanted to go from D to A, the direction of the displacement would have been this direction, right? Now second thing I want to tell you about displacement is that displacement can be equal to 0. Displacement can be 0. Now you will say how? Now if I say that a person is standing on the point A and he travels a circular path and he again reaches to point A. So what does happen here is that its initial point and its final point coincides, right? So I'll say that its initial and final points are same. So if I say that what will be the length between its initial point and final point, you would say 0, because its initial and final points are coinciding. So here we can see that yes, displacement can be equal to 0. Now the third point is that displacement can be positive quantity and it can be a negative quantity as well, right? I don't think there's much need of an explanation in this point. We'll move ahead and let me solve a problem on distance and displacement so that we can have a better understanding what we have read, right? So here's a problem. And here goes the problem. Now the problem is that an old person moves along a semicircular track of radius 40 meters, right? During a morning walk, if he starts at one end of the track and reaches the other end, find the distance and the displacement of that person, right? So let me draw a diagram first. A person moves along a semicircular track. Let me say this is a semicircular track. My drawing is not appropriate, sorry for that. Right? Now the radius, let me say this is origin. So the radius is 40 meters and the person has moved along a semicircular track between point A and point D. Now first we'll calculate the distance that object has traveled, right? Now you must know that the distance he has traveled is equal to the length of the semicircular track, right? And the length of the semicircular track is nothing but circumference of a semicircular track. Now, if the circumference of a full circle is equal to 2 pi r, then the circumference of a semicircle has to be equal to pi r. Or I can say it has to be equal to half of the full circle. So this pi r is actually the distance that object has traveled in a semicircular track. So substituting the values, what I will get for pi, I will write 3.14, and for radius I'll write 40 meters, and the distance that it comes is 126 meters, right? So this is actually the length that object has traveled, or I can say the distance that object has traveled. Now what about the displacement, right? What about the displacement the object traveled? So let us calculate displacement now. Now, as already defined, displacement is the shortest distance between 2 points, or I can say it is the length of the straight line between 2 points. So the length of the straight line is AOB. That will be the length of the straight line, and that is equal to the diameter of a semicircle, which in turn will be equal to 2r, and which will be equal to 80 meters. So 80 meters is the displacement between A and B, right? So I think you have understood distance and displacement now, and we'll talk about speed and velocity in the next video. Till then, take care and study smart.